Good morning, everybody. Thank you for making such an early morning. I hope you had a nice coffee and croissant. We have fruit during the break time for you as well. So I'm the conference manager at Meta, the company behind the digital art mall. My name is Senya. So when we look at the title, like Museum in Web3, like immediately the only person we can think of is Diane. Thank you so much that she curated today's conference and she put all her heart to make this happen. So I'm very grateful that all of you are here and also on time as well. So I would like to welcome Diane for the welcome remark, the founder of We Are Museum and the WAC Lab.
Thank you so much. Welcome and good morning. It's nice to see so many familiar faces, but also new ones. So we are on Wednesday, right in the middle of Arts Basel Week. And if you are here this morning, it's because I hope you believe that museums have a role to play in this Web3 space, but also understanding that the Web3 should be or could be more integrated in the what we so-called the traditional art market. So we are definitely trying to shape something new. We know that it's challenging, we know that it's ambitious, but we are all very passionate about what we do, and it's been a few years that we've been working towards it. So I'm Diane Drubay, as Xenia explained. I'm the founder of We Are Museums, and we've been running innovation labs for museums for the past decade. We are supporting museums into adopting social, environmental, and technological innovation. And for the past 3 years, we've been running a living lab called WAC Lab, which means WAC Web3 for the art and culture. We are providing training for cultural institutions, and we have an incubator to help cultural institutions adopting blockchain technology, generative AI, and the Metaverse. And today is actually the first conference around museums in Web3. It's not just one panel, it's an entire conference. So we will be having 3 panel discussions and 2 keynotes. The morning we start with what is part of the core mission of cultural institutions, meaning collecting the art of today and preserving it, so being able to safeguard it for the next generations. And this will be a panel discussion moderated by Alex Estorick from Right-Click Save. Then we will talk about audiences, of course, audience engagement, and how blockchain technology can actually enhance new types of interactions and also participation, and trying to put the visitors in the heart of the exhibition, and maybe trying to create a new type of relationship between the visitors and the collections. And then we will have, and this panel is moderated by Alexandra Hart from Trilitech, Tezos. And then our third panel discussion is actually the most ambitious to my mind, and also very inspiring. It's when you actually see museums trying to open up their walls and their decision-making processes, and trying to put the people at the heart of this governance, at the heart of the operational processes that museums could have. So we will be talking about decentralization, and this panel will be moderated by Brian Dracourt from Outland. And in between, you will have the chance to get 2 keynotes. The first one by Regina Arsani from the Museum of Moving Image in New York, talking about preservation. And we know that preserving time-based media artwork are really a challenge for the past decades, and she has been nailing it and trying to guide museums into adopting more sustainable practices. And then you will have a keynote by Digital Original talking about also storing digital art in a new manner. So you will see from the core mission of museums to more future thinking and opening up the museum walls. This will be a journey showing different ways to use blockchain technologies by cultural institutions. And I hope this journey that you will be having with us will be inspiring, and that you will become these ambassadors that we are looking for, and trying to express how museums can really embrace Web3. Thank you so much. I wanted to thank again so much Georg Bach and Roger Heiss for trusting me to organize such conference in their first edition of the Digital Art Mile. If you haven't been there yet, the Space 25 and Space 31 is filled with really good digital art and AI art exhibitions. So I'm really inviting you to go there. Thank you so much.
Right, so we're gonna get kicked off for the first panel. Just so you know, the whole conference is being recorded up to this level. So the panelists are being recorded. So I would like to welcome the moderator, Alex. He's the chief editor at Right Click Save. I think all of us know like this magazine, and he himself aimed to drive critical conversation about digital art and seek to develop social progressive approaches to new technologies. So join me in a welcome Alex.
Hi, everyone.
All right. So are you going to introduce the panelists?
Hi, folks. Thanks for coming to a conference on museums in Basel. I want to thank Art Meta and Xenia and Diane for setting up today's event, and for everyone for showing up. I'm conscious that this is a very what's the right word? Very important audience, and lots of people who I don't see very often. Thankfully, have had the chance to meet in person again, or for the first time, which is wonderful. You can see who's going to be on stage in a moment. Really honoured to be here with Julia Staudach, Daniel Heiss and Anika Meier. I also want to give a shout out to Sabine Himmelsbach, who hosted last night's event at HEC, partly because the decentralized community that she led at HEC, Friends of HEC, is I think quite an interesting model of tokenized community, decentralized community, and maybe ways of rethinking museums' relation with their audiences and visitors. And so that's, I think, this is the right place to have those kinds of conversations anyway. So I would like very much to welcome up Julia. For those of you who attended the CryptoPunks premiere yesterday, Julia Tschuuuly plays a prominent role, and I think from my perspective it was really interesting to learn a little bit more about your own personal journey into Web3. Can I have Daniel Weiss from ZKM? ZKM was set up in 1989, opened its doors in 97. It's a wonderful steward space for the exhibition of media arts, but also for many important archives of digital artists from the past, and has its own collection of NFTs, over which Daniel presides. And Anika Meier from the Foundation Herbert v. Franke, who's doing such great work, not only, I think, to celebrate Herbert's legacy, but also to drive all sorts of conversations, critical conversations about digital art right now. So if I can have a round of applause for the panel. Thank you all again for coming. I want to start, if I can just ask you all to, starting with Julia, if you don't mind, perhaps introduce yourself and how you got into the space, but also your institution, if that's possible.
Hi, I'm fully doxed now. Most people here probably know me as Tschuuuly, Tschuuuly. This is my real name. Yeah, I started investing in crypto back in 2017, and after 2 or 3 weeks, I found myself in plenty of WhatsApp and Telegram groups, and I really got into the community aspects. And a group of friends of mine who are all artists and creatives, we founded Cryptovina early 2018, and started minting on Ethereum our 32 by 32 pixel artworks from Austrian culture, famous characters. My first NFT I bought was a CryptoPunk back early 2019, and the job I got right now in this institution, the Francisco Carolinum, I just got that job because we had a big museum exhibition with Cryptovina in 2021 till 2022. And like a couple of weeks later, Alfred Weidinger texted me, could you please apply for the job because you're really good connected, you know the people, you know the space. And here I am, fostering our NFT collection on Tezos, Ethereum and Ordinals, and also curating museum exhibitions in our Metaverse space in CryptoVoxels.
Wonderful, thank you. And Daniel?
Hello, I'm Daniel Heiss. I work for ZKM as a software engineer, and as a hobby, kind of, I also manage the NFT collection of ZKM. I started in 2017 with an installation in the context of an exhibition which had a mining farm, and that was the start of every other blockchain-related stuff we did at ZKM. I will be happy to explain more on this later. Other jobs or other part of my job in ZKM is also preservation of media art. So it's kind of on both fronts of media art, the old stuff and the new technology.
Anika?
Good morning. You also wanted to know how we got into NFTs, right? Okay, good. So yeah, I studied art history and German literature, and there you don't learn a lot about digital art. I think actually nothing. I think they might have mentioned Namjoon Pike or so, and I learned a lot about medieval art, which was great. So yeah, and then I've been a freelance writer and curator, and if you work with digital art and are on social media, I think there's not really a way around NFTs. So yeah, and I've worked with a bigger gallery in Germany, and the gallerist invited me to curate an exhibition with him on digital art, and that was before the NFT hype, and then the pandemic happened, and it coincided what we've done with the NFT hype, and then I continued, and in 2022 I met Herbert v. Franke because Alfred Weidinger, who Julie just mentioned, was working on his first really big museum show in Austria, or better, the second one, ZKM has shown him earlier, and you were the first to bring really together because he's a writer, artist. He was in caves like everything, and they were the first to bring together these three lives of him. Before that, he kept it separate. So yeah, and then from there, I think it really started that his whole oeuvre got discovered, and yeah, we met, and he accidentally blew up on Twitter, which was not intended, and they were really busy with the show, and I just said, well, yeah, just, you know, people are so excited that you're around, and I said, just be there, nothing's going to happen, you don't have to worry. And then there were 10,000 followers after 48 hours, and I was a bit embarrassed because they were already stressed out about the show, and then I said, okay, I'm going to stay with you, don't worry. So, and here I am now.
Thank you all. I think I just want to start, perhaps each of you giving your perspective on maybe some of the opportunities that I'm going to say NFTs possibly allow for museum institutions, because as much as I feel the NFT as a term has been sort of discarded or kind of undermined in a sense, as a technology, I think it does open up certain conversations.
Well, for us, it's obvious to have a NFT collection because it's state of the art. It's part of the art world by now. It's a digital certificate for digital art, which makes that tradable and ownable in a way for the first time. You just need a wallet. You don't need a room to store it. Of course, that's easy to achieve and to foster. And I think it's just important that museums that are into contemporary art also and collect art also have an NFT collection. I think in the near future, most contemporary art museums will start collecting NFTs. I think that's the path to go forward. And
I'm just thinking about the Francisco Carolinum. I think back to a show like Proof of Art, And I just wonder if you could say something about, because obviously, the institution has been driving conversations around this set of digital art communities for a while. I guess, what have you learned from that experience? Because you've been in the space probably longer than a lot of us.
Well, I learned that there's a big interest there, that people really like it, and across all generations. When I made my first exhibition, that is not only in the Metaverse, but also in the museum, like we had some Steve McKelney pieces on the wall, his defacements of dollar bills. And it was really interesting to see how people reacted to that and how curious they were also about the Metaverse. And we have a docking station in the museum where people can just go walk to the screen and then walk around in the Metaverse. And it was really interesting to see that over all generations, people really liked it and were really curious and interested in that. So yeah, that's what I learned, that it's not a niche thing. It's really something that sparks interest in people, and that people really like that as an alternative, the digital space to explore art, and that's quite fascinating.
Do you think that because Linz has a heritage, not least one, catalysed by Herbert Franke and others, with Ars Electronica, that makes it a particularly friendly audience?
I'm not sure, actually. I think Linz is really a spot where things happen. I mean, with Ars Electronica, which is there since the 70s, it's definitely the place in Austria to think of first when you think of digital art and electronic art. And I'm wondering a little bit that Vienna is lacking behind, but I think Belvedere is now also trying to catch up a little bit on that. But yeah, Linz is the kind of epicenter right now.
And reflecting on your own part in the CryptoPunks community, I want to turn to Daniel. I mean, would you mind saying a little bit about the CryptoPunks story and ZKM's involvement and your own, but also, the opportunities that you see NFTs opening up for your particular institution?
Yeah, let's start with the second part first. The ZKM always was collecting media art and is, of course, very interested in new technologies. So for us, it was kind of a duty to also get into NFTs, at least to experiment and see what brings this new technology with it. I also see there's much more possibilities than just tokenization. If you think about smart contracts and all the possibilities that come with it conceptually, that get only possible through smart contracts and this new blockchain world. So it's kind of self-explaining that we need to engage with this and find ways to integrate it into these traditional processes of a museum, which is kind of difficult, but you need to start somewhere. So the first stage of our engagement was very experimental. So we approached it kind of naive, with just doing the same like a normal collector would have done. We took part in mints. We bought some early CryptoPunks and all this. And so to come back to the first part of your question, so the CryptoPunks you might refer to are the two that the media reported quite extensively were lost, so or at least transferred to a wallet which we don't have access to. This was my kind of, I wouldn't say fault anymore, more like it was kind of a performance.
I would classify it as a piece of performance art, yes.
Yes. So because they were transferred to the smart contract of the CryptoPunks smart contract itself, which is kind of different from the burn address you might use normally, like 0000 or something. It's like Tschuuuly said before, the first time I think about it this way, it's like sending them back to the...
Back home.
Back home, yes. Margit like to talk to refer to it like they are on an endless holiday.
And forgive me asking, I think I really appreciate you talking about that. But also, I just wonder whether that particular episode perhaps tells us anything about how museums, the problems perhaps associated with emergent technologies and museums' involvement with them.
Of course, blockchain is unforgiving, so you might have to handle all these transactions you do with super special care. We have been, like I said, very experimental and early with the ways how to handle it. Now we would definitely do it differently, and I guess these processes of how to organize it in a organization, not the personal. Normally you have as a person you have a wallet and you handle it and you are responsible for it. In an organization that's different, because you have to share the control, and also people leave the organization and you need to take care of the security and everything. So it's a lot of new things you have to learn and know to do it.
I just wonder, from a sort of curatorial standpoint, how ZKM thinks about the relationship between its own collections and the collection you're speaking of NFTs. Because I'm conscious also that the institution has the archives of Herbert Franke, but also Hiroshi Kawano and others. Is there a kind of joined up thinking about NFTs in relation to the wider collection?
So if you compare it maybe to the Centre Pompidou or other approaches of this, how collections could be organized, they put very much effort in advance to select works for their collection at one point after the hype happened, and our approach was kind of more like taking part of the actual developments as they happened. So we during this new medium was just developing, we just went with it and kind of documented what happened at the time when it happened. So it's not the collection itself might not be very comprehensive in terms of history of NFTs, but it still has important points in the development, which kind of out of a technical interest might be more the motivation behind it, but often it's also the first of its kind, or this way of approaching it. And at a later stage, I guess we have still time and the possibility to do it more in a curational way, to select artists, especially for some topic or whatever.
Thank you. Anika, just picking up on that, I'm thinking about not only Herbert Franke's sort of wide-ranging career, but also ways of joining recent developments in digital art back to different canons. What do you see as being the opportunities of NFTs to maybe challenge some of the sort of pre-existing categories of art, digital or not?
Yeah, if I may say something else before, I find it really nice how humble you are, but your collection is really impressive. ZKM, I think, yeah, you have Dimitri Czerniak and a lot of important art blocks pieces. I think you might not be able to afford it as a museum at this point. And I would also like, because you've just mentioned Centre Pompidou, and I find it very impressive that we have 3 big institutions in the German-speaking regions with Francisco Carolinum, Heck Basel. Sabina can't be here today. And I also wanted to mention one thing, because you said you don't need a space now for digital art collection. My students are here from the University of Applied Arts in Vienna, and they asked me about the collection of Heck yesterday, if they can see it. And I was like, well, it's not that interesting to see because it's basically a server and like a cupboard with packages where USB sticks are in there. So yeah, that just wanted to share that. And yeah, when it comes to Herbert V. Franke, and I mean, he was early thinking about art and technology. Late 1950s, he wrote his first book, Art and Construction, which the foundation will publish soon in English. And when I reread it, it was like as if he wrote it in 2022. It was like really crazy. Things haven't really changed. But what is interesting, he just kept being excited and wanted to find out more things, what he can do with technology, and no one was really interested in collecting the work, right? And that's for most of the artists, for most of the pioneers, and suddenly blockchain and the NFT hype happened and people were interested in collecting the work. And I think the great thing is, as you've just mentioned, the archive is with ZKM, so with the first NFT release the foundation has done with my help, they set up the foundation, and then sadly Herbert passed away in July of 2022. And yeah, then Suzanne and I because everyone was speaking about it and wanted somehow to participate, also celebrating the legacy, we said, let's do a tribute. And then we said that would be a wonderful opportunity to support ZKM and being able to work with the archive and digitize it. And we didn't know how well it would go, and we said, because it's a foundation, no money would go to the foundation, so we said, let's donate everything that's on plus what ZKM needed to Africa. So there's school projects being launched right now, and so I think that's a great thing. And I think the one thing all of us can learn from the pioneers and also from institutions like ZKM is, at some point you just have to do things. And if you're lucky, you have people like Daniel or Margaret who just do it. And because that's also important, or Tina Rivers-Ryan, who's here, who's now the editor-in-chief of Artform and was at Buffalo AKG in the US. I think it's important to always have people who are curious and want to do things, like pioneers like Alfred Weidinger in a museum director, Peter Weibel, who's sadly not with us anymore, and that these people just keep going no matter what happens. I think that's what we can learn. And even if people think you're crazy or not excited and think, what are you doing there? If you believe in it, just keep going. And you might do a great performance and end up in the history books, like Daniel.
Just thinking of, and just curious, whether you can share any memories of what Herbert thought about recent years, what the NFT was doing. We did a text for the magazine, an interview with Caroline Tschuuuly a while back, the daughter of Charles Tschuuuly, and she was, I think, adamant that for Chuck, the NFT had been a revelation. She actually said he nearly wept. So I don't know. What was Herbert's reaction?
I mean, they were both. So Herbert has always been supported by his partner Susanne Pech. So he called her his external hard drive. She really knows everything. It's crazy. I can just ask her, and she just knows it. So yeah, they were really interested, and were also in conversation with ZKM. But then you also have to learn a lot, and with Kate Vass, who they worked with, and yeah. So he was always interested in doing new things. And what I also learned when working with him and Susanne, that he has done something, he wanted to solve something, he wanted to understand something, and then he moved on, and then to the next and to the next, and that's a great thing. Why Susanne was there, because he sometimes also didn't remember. I guess it's also like for you and myself, when I wrote a text, I have written the text, and I might not remember 5 years later what's in the text, but someone else who like really has a different perspective on it. So yeah. And it was really important for both of them to do an NFT release and to really participate and to bring the work to the blockchain. And so yeah, we ended up doing that, and it's math art. It's 100 pieces from a project he worked on for 15 years, like really 5 years, which is also quite impressive, because with NFTs, a lot of people are used to drop, forget about it, or also like artists like Operator, who are showing their work at Space 31, I think it is. They keep working on it, right? And I think there's a few things we can really learn from the pioneers from these institutions, that yes, this might be something new and it's exciting, but we also might look back and spend more time with work, and not just like 2 weeks and then next.
I'd like to open up the conversation, if I may, because I think ultimately, from my perspective, I don't know if we've hit a wall in terms of conversations. Maybe sometimes the Web3 space feels a bit insulated, and I certainly feel that museums and hopefully publications have a role to play in disseminating useful knowledges and so forth to a wider community. I guess I'm interested to know from you all how digital art or NFTs can help to reinvent museum collecting and patronage of analog collections or of the ways museums think about themselves. I mean, we published a text by someone called Frances Liddell a couple of years ago about the digital democratization of museums, and one of the issues she addressed was this idea that you can tokenize your membership, but is that a kind of tokenistic act? Is it giving audiences a meaningful, a new and meaningful relationship with the institution, or is it a sort of rebranding exercise? So that's one thing that I've been thinking about. But I'm interested to know what lessons we can learn from this last period.
Wow, that's a lot of questions in one question. I think, how to start? Tokenizing memberships. NFTs are about ownership, digital ownership. So if you make a membership token, then you share in a way with your audience the ownership, but not really. So with NFTs you can do a lot, and you can also tokenize stuff that's already there, which I'm not a big fan of, like taking all the artworks and tokenizing them like Belvedere did with the Klimt Kiss. There's so many possibilities, and I think we're still starting to explore that. But yes, it's a chance for museums to open up and to invite their audiences to partake and get a feeling of being part of it, maybe. But maybe Anika has more to say, because I'm really a little bit overwhelmed by all these possibilities there are actually, and I think we're very early, and museums just start exploring that. And I think it's a good chance to take the next step and invite the audience to partake and have a feeling of being part of it also, and maybe carry the message and show the art to the wider audience in that way.
I guess one of the points that you hit on is this idea that, in a sense, museums are constrained in ways that other institutions are not, in what they can do, in ways they can interact with markets and so forth. What's been your experience from the Francisco Carolinum?
Well, we're just collecting and exhibiting, and it's basically the same that the museum already did before NFTs. They're looking for artists that do cool and great and really good art, and make acquisitions and collect those pieces and preserve them. And there's not the biggest difference to how it was done before. Now it's just another form of collecting and showing stuff. But I think there's not very big difference to how it was done before that, actually.
So that sounds like it's a kind of a renewal of the past rather than perhaps a challenge to approaches. What's your view, Daniel?
I might add the NFT world came as an addition to the museum, so it's not that we change all the processes now in the future and will turn everything upside down, which was the past. But at the same time, I think it's important to acknowledge the importance of this new medium and involve it into your processes somehow, or get the practice what it needs to do this. And maybe circling back to the tokenization of the membership, I think in the end what Hack is thinking to do, or tokenization could be, is not only a membership but taking part in the decision making. I guess that's the DAO approach which is involved there, which is kind of the end goal, I guess, where you want to distribute the power or the decision process to the members of the museum.
I guess one interesting aspect for museums when it comes to NFTs, like, I mean, NFTs have, let's be honest, a bit of a bad reputation, right? At least the 3 letters. And at some point I said, like very early on, I said digital art needs a rebranding, because outside of the NFT space, it's very connected to, you know, making like 20 millions with, I don't know, selling JPEGs of I don't know what. And I think, but then there's the reality of, yes, you now can sell digital art, and like Tina Rivers-Ryan has done it in the museum. They have done an NFT release, a very well curated exhibition on Feral File, a very prominent platform, co-founded by Casey Rears, which I'm sure all of you know. And I think you used the funds, Tina, to acquire then NFTs for the collection of the museum. And that's also sort of what Susanne does with the foundation Herbert v. Franke, right? So whenever the foundation now sells work from the estate, she has an idea beforehand what she's going to do with the funds. So for example, we've done an NFT release together with Proof. We didn't expect that we would end up with so much money. Same as with the tribute to Herbert v. Franke, we were a bit surprised, and then it's always better to, you know, it creates other problems suddenly if you make a lot of money. But in this case, it's really great because she knew beforehand, she always dreamed of like being able to host a big conference in the honor of Herbert, and that's also what he has done before. He curated exhibitions, he brought together people, he wrote books. That's also what he's known for one of his book, Computer Graphics. So her idea was, okay, with these funds, she would like to organize a conference, and this takes place in 2 weeks in Berlin, the Generative Art Summit. And that's a great thing. No one has to pay for the plane tickets and the hotel. Everything is going to be covered. I think that's also what NFTs can make possible, or like with ZKM, they could digitize the archive within, I think, less than a year, right? The timetable was totally fulfilled. We were really happy. And now she can do more with it, right? She can be like, okay, he wrote so much, there's the manuscripts with ZKM, they can be translated. We are thinking about doing a fellowship and making it possible that one writer like really spends time at ZKM and can publish a bigger essay or a book and really work with the archive. So that's also what NFTs can make possible. And I think that's then the beauty of, okay, you have this historical work, but in the end, you can help preserve the legacy. And yeah.
Thank you. I think it's very helpful to think about, you know, NFTs and tokenization, and but I also, when I think about Web3, I think about obviously blockchain and smart contracts. I don't know, Danielle, you talked a little bit about smart contracts. For me, what I find quite interesting are certain experiments which allow you to compensate different parties and fractionalize compensation. It seems like there are kind of progressive use cases for smart contracts. I just wonder whether either smart contracts or blockchain is part of the calculus of ZKM going forward.
Definitely. We just are, maybe someone read it on social media, we are in the process with getting a donation soon from the distributed gallery, which developed a protocol, the A-side protocol, which is specifically uses time locking, for example, which is something you can do with smart contracts, which you can prohibit any transfers of the token itself for a defined time or something like this, which is a concept which we thought about before, even without any unlocking mechanisms, what brings back the CryptoPunk story. But for a museum, it's interesting to use concepts like this to lock away an artwork maybe for 1,000 years or something, which is a nice concept, which could be done on paper, but in the blockchain it's provable, and it's math and cryptography. So yeah, there are many possibilities this new technology brings with it. We might still have to discover which.
And Julia, do you have any thoughts about the use of the blockchain or smart contracts or indeed tokens going forward?
Well, when I look for artworks for a collection, I'm very fond of those that really work with the code and where the concept of the art is playing with the blockchain and the technology and all connected with that. Future use cases of like the museum setting up their own contract and doing stuff with that. I'm thinking in various directions there, but yeah, steps are taken slowly. And as a museum, you have to really consider what you're doing because you can't really go and sell stuff. And you could. Some museums are doing that, but I think, yeah, I'm rather careful with that. But there are many ideas already.
Thank you. And just forgive me asking, I feel it would be remiss, I think, of me not to ask, but have you seen the film and what do you think of it?
Which film?
The punk film?
I've seen it twice. I think it's a good film to onboard or explain all this craziness to people who have no clue about all this NFT world. And I think it shows really good how much emotions are in there and how people are really attached to those NFTs and what this digital ownership thing really does to people. So there's really a lot of emotion and craziness around this, and I think that movie really shows it very well.
I also, for me, it gave me an insight into what I would consider to be a micro community with its own behaviors and relationships, and obviously one that was partly fueled by Discord. I just wonder whether, sort of tying this conversation up, whether the role of social platforms, Twitter and so forth, but also the kind of digital geography of the blockchain, which renders sort of national boundaries and traditional forms of sort of, I guess, visitor segmentation rather sort of old hat. I just wonder whether you feel these technologies help museums and institutions to engage with micro communities, perhaps in a different way.
Well, there's a lot of attention, and social media definitely helps to spread the word. And I think museums and institutions definitely can profit from this the attention that is coming through, and the social media and the communities. And there's a lot of value also, and in various forms in these communities, like not only spreading the word or attention, but also having potential buyers or people that are collectors. I think it's a benefit, this communities, and yeah, in the form of like bringing attention and fostering the legacy, and also helping museums to get the work out to people, show the art. Really, that's what our aim is, to bring the art to the masses and show and preserve it. And yeah, this social media thing definitely helps.
I think also, one of the points you hit on is the importance of collectors, big collectors of digital art. I don't know, Daniel or Anika, whether you have feelings about how institutions might relate to some of the leading collectors in the Web3 space going forward, some of whom have gifted works, for example, Cosimo de' Medici to LACMA. Do you have any observations about that relationship between, individuals?
I guess it's some kind of comparable to the traditional art world, where museums always were kind of dependent on donations from big collectors. So if you're not early in the space, it won't be possible for a museum, maybe, or at least for public funded institutions to get an autoglyph or some high value NFTs, and you might only be able to do so when you have the collector who is interested in making it public in a museum. So yeah, they are important. You have to be careful to not get played as a public institution by the collectors.
Very well said. Yeah, the Foundation Herbert W. Franke, Susanne and Herbert collected themselves. I mean, Herbert exchanged work with his colleagues. So Susanne now keeps collecting, and it's very important. It's the collection Franke and Friends. It's important that she continues doing what they have done together, collecting from friends, collecting from artists they both admired, were in touch with. And yeah, we speak a lot when she selects an artwork, and then she always like, or when she sees something, Herbert would really found this interesting, he would really have enjoyed seeing it. So, and this at some point, of course, will also go to a museum. I mean, parts of his physical collection are at Kunsthalle Bremen. Already I went there, I think about 10 years ago or so, or no, not that long, maybe 6 or 7. So yeah, but that will at some point also go into a museum collection. And yeah, that's really important because artists who are new to NFTs, they think one of the biggest clients might be at some point a museum. But then I always have to break the news. Well, it's not a thing that's where you donate it to, right? So, and then they're like, what? Yeah, that's, you know, they don't have a budget. Like, I think many artists would be surprised how not big a budget of a museum is. Yeah, so whenever you can support a museum, I think it's great.
On that note, thank you all for listening, and please give it up for our panel.